Live with clickorlando.com and streaming on News 6 Plus. This is News 6 Mornings at 5. Getting results.
Breaking news, Idalia now a hurricane as it continues to move toward Florida and likely bringing impacts our way. We're pinpointing the new advisory just coming out.
From sandbags to shelters, preps are underway in parts of Central Florida. A live update on areas where evacuations are recommended.
And thousands along the Gulf Coast being forced to evacuate. What the state is doing now to make it easier for families leaving their homes. But we do want to start with the latest on Idalia and the brand new track. Good Tuesday morning to Central Florida. It's 5 a.m. I'm Justin Wormuth.
I'm Crystal Moyer. Thanks for waking up with us.
I'm Bridget Ellison. Trooper Steve's watching your roads. Meteorologist Troy Bridges has that new advisory.
And Idalia is now a hurricane. We told you that would likely happen because it's moving now into the Gulf of Mexico with those warm waters. Let's take you right to it. The winds right now at 75 miles per hour. Remember, it takes 74 mile per hour winds or greater to be a hurricane. So it's barely a hurricane at this point, but it will rapidly intensify now that it's moving into those near 90-degree water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico. It's also no longer interacting as much with land in the western Gulf of Cuba. So western sides of Cuba there with that land has helped this not strengthen as quickly as it could. Now that it's moving into those warm waters, get ready. It will become a Category 2 fairly quickly, and then a Category 3, moving close to the Big Bend of Florida as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow on Wednesday. Here's the new track, though, and it does take all of Central Florida technically out of the cone, but still a major Category 3 hurricane will be likely making landfall in the Big Bend, and that is close enough to us that we will have tropical storm force winds and those squall lines. So here are the concerns for today, this afternoon. Squall lines with those chances for a few rotating cells, as well as through the day tomorrow, those stronger winds up to tropical storm force, even some hurricane force gusts, and then late Wednesday finally clearing out. Let's check in now with meteorologist Michelle Morgan. She has the latest on those impacts.
Thanks so much, Troy. Yeah, so we're looking at tropical alerts across the entire area. We're looking at tropical storm warnings for Lake County, Orange County, and along our coastal spots. As we get closer to the Gulf side, we're looking at Sumter County, also portions of Marion County under a hurricane warning, meaning hurricane force winds are possible, heavy rain, and also we could see some spin-ups in that area. So let's go ahead and break down the impacts. We'll go ahead and start off with Marion County and also Sumter County. Winds sustained between 50 to 60 miles per hour. That can definitely cause some damage. Rainfall between 3 to 6 inches. We could see flooding in low-lying areas. And then tornadoes. Spin-ups are certainly possible. As that system gets closer to us, we could see some spin-ups within the storm, especially along those or within those outer bands. Now taking a look at Orange County, Lake County, also Seminole County, winds between 40 to 50 miles per hour, rainfall between 2 to 4 inches. And again, folks, locally higher amounts are certainly possible, and also there's a threat for spin-ups in those counties. Now as we head to our coastal areas, winds between 30 to 40 miles per hour, rainfall between 1 to 2 inches, and then we're looking at an isolated threat for tornadoes as well. But these spots are going to have to watch out for rip currents and also storm surge, definitely a concern. So we'll begin to see conditions deteriorate as we go through this afternoon, certainly during the overnight hours. So again, keep that in mind. Of course, we'll have more in this forecast coming up in a bit.
Trooper Steve's Pinpoint Traffic Report is brought to you by Napleton Automotive.
All right now roadways aren't doing too bad across Central Florida. I-4 here at Kirkman, pretty much up to speed. Now, this morning and leading up to mid-afternoon, we're going to see an influx in traffic. A lot of people out doing what they're supposed to and getting ready for these impacts. Like our meteorologists are saying, it's kind of taking a little west, but that does not mean we're not going to see stuff here in Central Florida. So there is active construction out there right now, but over the next few hours, you're going to see that kind of die down. You will not see that tonight. Out here along 429 at Plant Street, they are beginning to secure a lot of the construction zones. So just make sure we're paying attention. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Trooper Steve. As we've been telling you, Idalia could still move closer or further away as it churns through the Gulf. But no matter what, at least part of Central Florida will feel impacts.
And it has local leaders making sure everyone is prepared.
We have live team coverage for you this morning. Izzy Castro will join us along the turnpike in moments, but we do want to start with Mark Lehman live in Marion County. And Mark, shelters are opening there this morning.
We're at one of 5 shelters that will be available for people who have concerns about the storm's impact. Some evacuations are being recommended as a hurricane warning is now in effect for part of the county. County leaders met yesterday morning to make sure they're ready. They say work started over the weekend clearing drains and prepping flood-prone areas. They're urging everyone to finalize their plans today, gathering supplies and getting things ready around the home. Now, out here at the shelter at Forest High School, it will be open at 8 this morning. Sandbag locations are also reopening at 7 a.m. Meanwhile, we've been speaking with residents about their concerns from the approaching storm. We're hearing from them coming up in our next report at 5:30. For now, reporting live in Marion County, Mark Lehman, Getting Results, News 6.
Mark, thanks. With Sumter County also under the hurricane warning, emergency officials are telling some people to consider evacuating. That covers people in mobile and manufactured homes, along with those who live in low-lying and flood-prone areas. It's not mandatory. Shelters, though, will be opening this afternoon at the fairgrounds in Webster, along with the Wildwood Community Center, but officials are warning space will be limited.
They're not cruise ships, so we don't have a lot of accommodations for people. It's really just an emergency evacuation center for people to get out of the wind, and then if everything's fine, they go back home.
Sandbags will also be available again today for anyone who needs them.
Idalia's projected path over the Gulf is forcing thousands of people on Florida's west coast to evacuate as families begin to leave their homes. State officials are making it easier by suspending tolls on certain highways. Our Ezzy Castro continues team coverage now along the turnpike in Sumter County. Ezzy, more than half the state is under a state of emergency.
Yes, evacuations are underway for thousands along the Gulf Coast, and because of that, the governor has suspended tolls for part of the state. Yesterday, residents along the West Coast were seen gassing up and loading their cars with sandbags and hurricane supplies. Here in Sumter County, emergency officials say their top concerns with the storm are the threat of tornadoes, power outages, and potential flooding. Now, back out here live, the governor also mentioned that the U.S. Coast Guard is preparing helicopters for search and rescue missions, and the National Guard has been mobilized. For now, live in Sumter County, Ezzy Castro, Getting Results, C6.
Thank you, Ezzy. Idalia is having an impact on some Central Florida school districts as well. Marion County will be closed both today and tomorrow. Sumter County will have an early dismissal today, then be closed tomorrow and Thursday. Lake and Flagler counties have announced they will be closed on Wednesday. All other districts say they're monitoring the storm. Idalia isn't the only storm making for rough conditions in our area. Hurricane Franklin, hundreds of miles off the East Coast, is being blamed for strong rip currents on our beaches.
It feels like something's pulling you from your feet. Someone's just yanked your feet away. It just pulls you, but you just got to look out. The swimmers around, if you don't have a surfboard to hold on to, it can get tough.
Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey says neither Idalia nor Franklin is expected to interrupt any public services, including schools.
All right, let's turn to your weather and an updated track on our Hurricane Idalia. Troy?
I wanted to zoom in on this track so that you understand the impact, even though we're not technically in the cone now. This is the cone, and it shows that we do have currently winds, tropical storm force, that's 40-mile-per-hour winds or greater, extending 160 miles from the center. Now, keep in mind, the center of the system is way down there near Cuba. If this were to stay the same with winds extending 160 miles from the center at tropical storm force, and we had the center on the red line here, look at this. We would still have at least tropical storm force winds stretch into Orange County, including downtown Orlando. Now, if we see it move any more to the east of that center line, which could definitely be the case, then this line could stretch farther to the coast. Even Brevard could have tropical storm force winds. So that is why we are saying we will have the chance for tropical storm force winds for a large part of Central Florida, even though we're not technically in the cone. So you can't look at the cone and think this thing is not going to affect me. It will. We're going to have rain, we're going to have squall lines, and the chance for some of those tornadoes as well as those stronger wind gusts. So a Category 3 hurricane likely, and again, we could see that extension line pushed all the way farther off to the east, depending on how strong this does get. Coming up, we'll have team coverage of those county by county impacts. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Troy. 5:11 coming up. Idalia forcing thousands of evacuations in Cuba.
A new look at rough conditions on the island.
Plus, major concerns surrounding Florida's struggling property insurance industry. New comments from state officials working to reassure homeowners.
But first, victims of Hurricane Ian preparing for more storm impacts. Reaction from Southwest Florida, where many are still rebuilding.
Go to clickorlando.com and sign up to be an insider so I can bring you exclusive contests, stories, and behind-the-scenes footage.
Live with Bridget Ellison, Justin Warmoth, Crystal Moyer, meteorologist Troy Bridges, and your traffic safety expert, Trooper Steve. This is News 6 Mornings, getting results.
If you're just waking up with us, Idalia is now a hurricane, and it's still forecast to be a major Category 3 when it makes landfall on the Gulf Coast tomorrow. Meteorologist Troy Bridges and Michelle Morgan will be back in minutes to pinpoint Idalia's projected path and potential impacts in Central Florida. And the storm is leading to some serious concerns among people along the southwest Florida coast.
Many are still trying to recover after Hurricane Ian devastated the region less than a year ago.
That's right, and homeowners are doing what they can to be ready this time, including getting sandbags. Some homes, though, are still damaged in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. People living in Charlotte County, for instance, say they're not taking any chances. And meteorologist Troy Bridges is back here with more breakdown on how the timing of this works out. Of course, we're also monitoring different closures like the schools, for instance, Orange County Public Schools, looking at the sustained wind speeds because that dictates the buses, right?
Yeah, and I know you were asking about that in the commercial break. Sustained winds at 35 or higher, that's likely more overnight and early in the morning, so I do think this afternoon that will be okay. But we'll start to have some of those gusts near 35 or higher, closer to 40 miles per hour late this afternoon. So we've got to watch for that, but I do think the sustained winds won't start to be that strong until late tonight into early tomorrow. So here's the very latest on Hurricane Idalia now.
So that's a look at your county by county impacts. Also, storm surge, definitely a concern along the Florida coast, between 2 to 3 feet. But look at the Big Bend area. We could see less than 9 feet. So here's a look at your hour by hour.
Your weather forecast is sponsored by Fairwinds.
Temperatures climbing into the lower 90s today. We'll begin to see the tropical moisture move in, and also the winds will begin to pick up this afternoon and getting stronger as we go through tonight. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. As I mentioned before, 92 today with a 90% coverage for showers and thunderstorms, 89 tomorrow, looking at widespread rain across the area. That tropical moisture lingering into our Thursday, and we'll still see rain as we head into our Friday with temperatures in the lower 90s.
Thank you, Michelle. Right now, like she had mentioned just a few minutes ago about keeping things secure, I was out and about yesterday, and I was over at Home Depot, and there was concrete all over the floor, and I'm like wondering what's going on. They have put heavy pieces of concrete on top of things to keep them secure. You should do the same thing, just like over here, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A took down the tarp. This is stuff we should be doing in our homes. So today I'll be doing the same thing in my backyard. Make sure we secure all those items because at the end of the day, they become projectiles. You don't want that stuff coming into your house or your neighbor's yard. I-4 looking pretty good this morning. Nothing major to report to you this morning. Sand Lake east and westbound. If you're headed on 528 this morning, maybe towards the airport, no issues just yet. I'll keep my eye out there. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Trooper Steve. As Idalia approaches Florida, our area could start seeing evacuations. And at the bottom of the hour, where officials are already recommending people leave their homes.
First, though, breaking new details on a deadly double shooting in Orlando. What police just told us about the accused killer. Up next.
I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me about this and to getting this resolved for all of us.
This is the News 6 Pinpoint Weather app, and it is packed with new features like exclusive video forecasts from your favorite meteorologists.
Thanks for downloading the all-new Pinpoint Weather app. Now here's your forecast.
Sometimes you need an interactive radar with built-in storm tracker. We got that and more. Like geo-targeting technology that will alert you to changing weather anywhere you are.
Man, this is a good app.
It's the all-new Pinpoint Weather app, only from News 6.
Breaking overnight, Orlando police say the suspect in the shooting deaths of a man and woman is dead. The victims' bodies were found just before 7 a.m. yesterday along Azola Street off Shader Road near John Young Parkway. Police said both victims died at the scene. Investigators say the suspect took his own life and they are not looking for anyone else.
Still to come, we continue our live team coverage on Idalia, which is now a hurricane.
The Pinpoint Weather team is back in minutes with a look at the storm's projected path.
Live, this is News 6 Mornings, getting results.
Breaking right now, Idalia strengthens into a hurricane as it continues its path towards Florida. What the new projected path will mean for our impacts.
Plus, people across Central Florida preparing for Idalia's arrival. The county's now under a state of emergency.
And thousands of people along the Gulf Coast have been ordered to evacuate. The message from the governor about how far those asked to leave should go. Good morning, Central Florida. It's now 5:30. I'm Bridget Ellison.
I'm Crystal Moyer. Thanks for staying with us on this Tuesday.
I'm Justin Wormuth, and we have team coverage on Adalia with meteorologist Troy Bridges and Michelle Morgan. We want to start with Troy and the very latest on the storm's path.
Yeah, if you've just tuned in, we do have a hurricane just now officially formed as of the 5 a.m. advisory. And so now that it's moving into these very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to strengthen. We've got water temperatures near 90 degrees. That is jet fuel. I said that several times yesterday to strengthen this. So likely in the next few hours, it will become a Category 2 and then a Category 3 major hurricane heading into tomorrow. And then early in the morning tomorrow, likely making a landfall in the Big Bend area. Now, the new track, the 5 a.m. track, does exclude technically Central Florida. We're not in the cone, but we do see winds extending outside of the center of this storm right now, 160 miles at tropical storm force. So that's going to be 40+ mile-per-hour winds extending from the center. Now, if that holds true, and likely will, even more so as it gets closer to us, we'll see the chance for tropical storm force winds across all of Central Florida as it's even just off of the west coast of Florida. So when would we notice some of that? Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. tropical storm force winds possible for today. 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's for our southern zones. That's for Osceola and Polk counties. And then for Orange County on up into Volusia County, even Flagler County, between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. tropical storm force winds 40 miles per hour or greater. And then between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. a good bit of that for Sumter County and for Marion County. Again, tropical storm force winds on the way. With more of those impacts and what we're dealing with today, tomorrow, and even Thursday, let's check in with meteorologist Michelle Morgan. Michelle, this is going to be a real impact, especially for Wednesday.
Oh, absolutely, Troy. So we'll go ahead and talk about the tropical alerts first. So we have tropical storm warnings, also hurricane warnings in effect for the area. We're looking at our central and southern zones, also along our coastal spots under a tropical storm warning. So tropical storm force winds are likely as we go through tonight and early tomorrow morning. Now, we're looking at Sumter and portions of Marion County under a hurricane warning, where you can see hurricane force winds in those areas, and definitely a ton of tropical moisture heading into the area, which will drop a ton of rain over the area. And we're looking at localized flooding as we go through tonight and tomorrow. So as we look at your county by county impacts, we'll start off with Sumter and Marion. Winds sustained between 50 to 60 miles per hour, rainfall between 3 to 6, and tornadoes are certainly possible as we see those outer bands move in. We could see a few spin-ups. Central zones here, we're looking at Lake County, Orange County, Seminole County, winds between 40 to 50 miles per hour, rainfall between 2 to 4. And spin-ups are also possible. As we look at our coastal spots, Brevard, Volusia, and Flagler, winds between 30 to 40 miles per hour and rainfall between 1 to 2, and also isolated tornado threats in those areas. So we'll continue to watch this forecast. We'll have another update coming up in a bit. Let's go ahead and check on the roads with Trooper Steve.
Trooper Steve's Pinpoint Traffic Report is brought to you by Napleton Automotive.
Thank you, Michelle. Things still pretty decent out here right now. 528 east and westbound if you're headed towards the airport. Not tracking any problems. Some other side roads here, that would be McCoy, headed in the westbound direction. As you make your way towards Orange Avenue, keep in mind a lot of school traffic still will be taking place today. So just make sure you're paying attention. A lot of people getting ready for the incoming storm, and we're all in the same boat. So just be polite out there. South of the airport, Boggy Creek, Simpson, up to speed right now. No issues in the school zone. Give it a couple minutes and we'll start to see some delays. 192 up to speed as well. Now 429 still seeing the construction over by Plant Street. You're down to a single lane. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Trooper Steve. Right now, final preps are underway as parts of Florida brace for a direct hit from Hurricane Idalia. Yesterday, Governor DeSantis expanded the state of emergency to include most of Central Florida. And while on the current track, we'll be spared the worst of the storm. That does not mean we will not see impacts. We have team coverage this morning, starting with Mark Lehman live in Marion County, and several shelters are opening up there this morning.
Leaders in Orange County say they're not expecting major impacts from Idalia, but they will be ready just in case.
While we know a lot about what the experts are saying will happen with this storm, it could change. And our plan is one that is flexible, that we can make adjustments where needed.
Mayor Demings says that a lot of the focus in recent days has been on the Orlo Vista area, which was left badly flooded during last year's hurricanes. The mayor, though, says ponds in that area are now deeper, and the storm isn't expected to bring nearly as much rain. A couple of shelters are being opened at 1 this afternoon for anyone who needs them. Those are at Barnett Park and the South Econ Recreation Center.
In Brevard County, officials are warning people to prepare for winds as high as 30 miles per hour as Idalia moves into Florida. But the bigger concern on the east coast of the state isn't Idalia, but rather Hurricane Franklin. That storm, which is making its way across the Atlantic right now, is stirring up the water and triggering rip current warnings. Officials are warning people to stay out of the water, and if you do happen to get caught in a rip current, remember to swim parallel to the shoreline to escape.
All right, let's get back to meteorologist Troy Bridges. Yes, we have Franklin out there, Troy, but we have a more pressing issue with Idalia.
Yeah, and the reason we're not showing a lot with Franklin is our only threat from Franklin really is going to be those rip current risks. So our main concerns are going to be those tropical storm force winds trying to move closer to Central Florida, heading into late tonight and early on Wednesday. So I wanted to draw this line here. This shows 160 miles from the center of this circulation. It is a Category 1 hurricane, and it does have tropical storm force winds. That's 40-mile-per-hour winds or greater, extending out 160 miles. So if you look at it in any direction here, Key West already experiencing those tropical storm force winds. And of course, the closer this gets to us, we could see that line get even longer, meaning tropical storm force winds for even more of Central Florida. And of course, as it strengthens to a Category 3 before landfall in the Big Bend area, even though technically we are no longer in the cone, we are going to be dealing with that chance for that line to extend all the way into central Orange County into the early morning hours on your Wednesday.
Thank you, Troy. Trooper Steve will be back in just a few minutes to answer one of the questions you sent in.
Coming up today, with Idalia approaching, what to do if you find yourself in flood waters.
Plus, breaking overnight a deadly crash in Lake County. The answers we're working to get from troopers ahead.
Trooper Steve on Patrol is sponsored by Gibson Truck World. We are the king of trucks. Want the latest and most pinpoint accurate updates going on in the tropics? Then download the free News 6 Hurricane Tracker app. Sign up for push alerts with the most recent storm watches and warnings. Get instant live storm track models and local radar, all to help you prepare for what to do before, during, and after the storm. Tracking the tropics with News 6, and it's all in the palm of your hand. Just search WKMG in your app store. Live with Bridget Ellison, Justin Warmoth, Crystal Moyer, meteorologist Troy Bridges, and your traffic safety expert, Trooper Steve. This is News 6 Mornings, getting results.
Quarter till time for Ask Trooper Steve, where we answer the questions you send in. Steve, today we're talking about floodwaters.
Floodwaters. It could happen on a normal thunderstorm or like what we have headed this way. So this is the general question. What do I do if I find myself in a flooded roadway? All right. First and foremost, I say this with any type of situation. Don't panic, right? Panic is going to set you up for failure straight away. Also, find yourself one of these. They come in different shapes, sizes, different types. I bought one of these for Results 1 to keep it in the truck. It is a window punch and a seatbelt cutter. Wow. So what happens is you find yourself into the water, right? Initially, if your vehicle begins to be submerged, you're not going to be able to open these doors. That pressure is going to be there. So how do you get your windows open if the electrical system starts to die out? So having one of these in your vehicle is key. I'm going to fill you in on something else. If your mind is calm enough, if you take your headrest off, the bottom part of your headrest, bottom part of the window, that will also shatter your window. So part of that is to remain calm in the water. What I'm going to say might freak you out a little bit, but you're going to want to wait until the water is in the vehicle if it's submerged, because at that point, vehicle pressurizes, everything equals out. You're able to open those doors. You have to stay calm in a situation like this. Do not play in the water. If your vehicle gets stuck, hop on top of the car and dial 911.
Hopefully they don't have to find themselves, but some great tips there.
Yes, sir.
All right, if you have a question for Trooper Steve, let him know on our website. Just head to clickorlando.com/AskTrooperSteve.
Breaking overnight, troopers in Lake County are investigating a deadly crash near Claremont. This is video from the scene along US 192 at Town Center Boulevard. You can see a car in the middle of the road with damage to the hood. At this point, troopers have not said exactly what happened, only that at least one person has died.
With Idalia making its way closer to Florida, FPL is making its final preparations ahead of the storm. Crews were out trimming trees in hopes of preventing limbs from falling on top of power lines. They're also pre-positioning hundreds of crew members and equipment so they can quickly respond to any outages. OUC says it is also getting ready. The utility released some video yesterday showing those crews preparing power trucks ahead of the storm. And we thank them for their service. There's no doubt to bring our service back online if that happens. And, you know, towards the west, Troy, is really our main focus, the western portions of Central Florida.
Marion County, Sumter County could see some of those stronger wind gusts. We're talking about tropical storm force winds right now extending 160 miles from the center of that storm. The closer it gets to us, the more likely we'll have those tropical storm force winds. You wonder, well, what are those winds? They're 40 miles per hour or greater, and there could be gusts even greater than that, closer to hurricane force as we get into the early morning hours tomorrow. Our concern today, though, will be more of those squall lines pushing in. So I'm going to show you a good bit of future radar straight ahead. But first, let's tell you the 5 a.m. advisory. If you've just tuned in, it did strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane. All night last night, all day yesterday, it was a tropical storm. Now that it's moving away from that landmass of Cuba, it's not interacting with land, which can usually help to sort of keep these things at bay, tear them apart a little bit. Now that it's moving into those warm ocean waters, 90-degree water temperatures are very close to it. It has that fuel to strengthen even more to a Category 3, which is a major hurricane making landfall right there in the Big Bend of Florida early in the morning tomorrow. Now, the new track, if you've just tuned in as of 5 o'clock this morning, does exclude Central Florida. But keep in mind, if we see that line push anywhere within that cone, we could see, or that center of circulation anywhere within that cone, we could see those tropical storm force winds all the way into Brevard County, depending on just how strong the storm is and exactly where it ends up. So here's future radar. Into the afternoon and evening hours today. There's 4:30 on at 5, 6, 7 o'clock. You see these squall lines building in with very heavy downpours, a chance for some rotating cells, and we'll see more of that continuing through the afternoon today and the early morning hours tomorrow. But notice, tomorrow by 3, 4, 5 in the morning, you see that eye just off the coast by about 160 miles from the Orlando metro region. So if I drew a line from that center at 6:30 tomorrow morning, it would stretch 160 miles right about to inland Volusia County, also to Orange County, central zones, even over into areas like Bithlo. And so that's 160 miles, which would mean we would have tropical storm force winds. With more on those impacts, let's bring in meteorologist Michelle Morgan, and she has more on those county by county things you can expect.
Thanks so much, Troy, for the timing there. So yes, let's go ahead and talk about the impact county by county. I do want to start off with Sumter and Marion County, where we could see sustained winds between 50 to 60 miles per hour with stronger wind gusts in those areas. Now, rainfall expected between 3 to 6 inches. Locally higher amounts are certainly possible, which can lead to localized flooding, especially in low-lying areas. The tornado threat for those areas, again, under a slight risk, so spin-ups are certainly possible as we see those outer bands move into our area as we go through tonight. Now we're looking at our inland counties, Orange County, Lake County, Seminole County. We're looking at winds between 40 to 50 miles per hour with stronger wind gusts, rainfall between 2 to 4 inches, and spin-ups are also possible as we see those outer bands move in. Now our coastal spots stretching from Brevard County to Volusia County and also Flagler. I am expecting winds between 30 to 40 miles per hour, rainfall between 1 to 2 inches, but keep in mind coastal impacts, storm surge definitely concerned, where we could see storm surge between 2 to 3 feet, and also isolated tornadoes are possible in that area, so keep that in mind. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast so you know what to expect not only today as we go through tomorrow. Before we get to the 7-day forecast here, we'll look at your hour-by-hour forecast, of course. Again, temperature staying steady.
Your forecast is sponsored by Publix.
Alrighty, temperature staying in the upper 70s. We'll see a few showers here and there. The rain chances will go up as we go through the afternoon as we begin to see those outer bands push in. That tropical moisture will continue to move in as we go through this afternoon and tonight, and the winds will pick up. Temperatures will be near average in the lower 90s as we go through today, so keep that in mind. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Alrighty, as we go through today, 92 with a 90% coverage for showers and thunderstorms. As we go through tomorrow, again, that rain keeping our temperatures below average in the upper 80s. Tropical moisture lingering through the entire day. Tomorrow as well, 91, and heading into the weekend, we're looking at rain chances between 40 to 50 miles per hour with our temperatures in the lower 90s. So here's a look at the roads with Trooper Steve.
Thank you, Michelle. Right now, I'm currently not tracking a crash anywhere across Central Florida. Even the delay is not too bad. Eastbound I-4 down in in Kissimmee Champions Gate, but we do know, give it about an hour, we'll start to see that mixed with some people who may be even leaving the coast. Remember, I like a lot of the talking points that we're hearing. If you are choosing to evacuate or under an evacuation, and hey, you're headed this way, you don't need to go too far. Just get away from that danger zone. Point Siena, you guys are looking pretty good right now. Intersection City, Point Siena Boulevard, coming down towards Koa, Marigold, even the Peabody area, San Lorenzo, no problems as of right now. Eastern portions of Osceola, 192 into the Harmony area, looking good. And then 429 at New Independence, all clear. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Trooper Steve. 5:53, Mother Nature getting in the way of a planned rocket launch from our coast.
What ULA is saying about its decision and when they could try again.
First, though, all eyes on Idalia as the storm barrels its way closer to Florida. How our local counties are preparing next as we check our big stories.
Together with News 6, Beefar Contracting and Duncan, you raised over $60,000 for a gift for teaching. Your donations help thousands of students and teachers get essential school supplies. Now that's getting results. Trooper Steve on Patrol is sponsored by Gibson Truck World. We are the king of trucks.
Thank you so much.
We love our News 6 insiders. We appreciate that.
You become an insider and you win.
5:56, if you're headed out, let's check your big stories, starting with updates on Idalia. As of 5 a.m., the storm is now a hurricane. It's still on track to make landfall on the Gulf Coast as a powerful Category 3.
And while Central Florida shouldn't get a direct hit, many areas will see tropical storm force wind gusts. Emergency workers in Marion, Sumter, and Volusia counties are recommending people in mobile homes to evacuate.
Still to come on News 6 Morning, several school districts making the decision to close.
At the top of the hour, which students have today off and who all still needs to head to class.
Get the latest news, weather, and more from the News 6 Plus streaming app. Visit the Apple TV App Store to download the News 6 Plus app today.